Hi everyone, Danielle Roberts from Boomer Benefits here. Many of you know that we run a free private Facebook group where we answer your questions about Medicare. But we also get a lot of questions about Social Security in the group, and while I'm a Medicare insurance expert, Social Security is a whole nother ballgame. Fortunately, I know a true expert when it comes to Social Security, so today I've got a great interview for you in which I speak with Devin Carroll from Carroll Investment Management. Devin is a financial planner, a YouTube star, and also co-host of the very popular podcast called Big Picture Retirement. Most importantly, he is a whiz when it comes to Social Security, and he's even written a book about Social Security basics. In our interview, Devin gives us his best tips and insights on when to file for Social Security, what factors should go into your decision, why a break-even analysis is not the best factor for determining when to file, and how benefits can be taxed if you earn too much while you're taking them. Be sure that you stay tuned for the part where Devin tells us exactly why it's so critical that we check our Social Security statements every single year. If we don't, we could seriously impact the amount of money that we get someday in our monthly benefits. The guidance that Devin gives us on this is so helpful. Hope you enjoy this interview, and thanks for participating in the Boomer Benefits YouTube channel. Good morning, Devin. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Danielle, thank you for having me.
I know that our listeners and viewers are going to be so excited because we get so many questions here at Boomer Benefits about Social Security. So they see online that we're experts in Medicare and they just roll in the Social Security questions. And I think that's very common as people kind of think they go together. But in reality, that's not always the case. So I've got some great questions for you today, but I thought we would just start by having you tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And you're right. I do Social Security stuff and I get the Medicare questions. So
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about there. It does seem like that they are interrelated because you go and you file for Medicare at the Social Security office. It's generally, if you're taking Social Security benefits, the Medicare premiums are taken out of your Social Security check. So it does seem like if someone knows a lot about Social Security, they should also know a lot about Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm here to tell you that is not the case. I struggle with Medicare still. I may know more about it than most people, but there's still a lot of areas that's completely confusing. So it's fantastic to have experts out there such as yourself. So I'm a financial planner, and I've been in this business for about 16 years. And I came to a point where I realized that I don't know nearly as much about Social Security as I should. And that was after I'd advised clients for probably 10 years in retirement planning. And yet here was this super important retirement income stream that I knew the basics, but that was about it.
Yeah.
I didn't understand how to go back and calculate someone's benefit if they said, hey, Devin, if I'm thinking about retiring early, how's that going to impact my benefit if I retire at 55 and then wait till 67?
So complicated.
All of these things, I just couldn't give any advice on it. So I went back and I relearned everything that I probably should have already known about Social Security. And once I did, for some reason, there was a hook that was set. And this hook went deep. I mean, I swallowed it hard with Social Security. And I literally gave up a lot of my hobbies. And now this is kind of what I nerd out on. I started the blog, Social Security Intelligence, and that's turned into the YouTube channel. And this is what I have fun doing now.
Yeah, and you've got a great channel. I was looking at it this morning, almost 50,000 YouTube subscribers and just so much content out there. Like I thought Medicare was big, and then I saw the number of videos that you've put out about Social Security, and it just makes you wonder, what were they thinking to make all of this just so complicated for the average American? The level of stress that people have trying to figure out Social Security and Medicare is ridiculous.
It is. And it's deceptively complicated too. It's one of those things that on the surface, you get a statement and you have three options, right? So you could file at 62, your full retirement age, or age 70. Those are the three benefits estimates they give you as if it's this simple decision, but it's not. It's not simple at all.
What goes into making that decision? So, that age-old question of, should I file at 62? I know that there's kind of there's a lower benefit if you do that. And then for every year that you wait, that increases your benefit. Should people be looking at, I know that if you work and you also take Social Security, your Social Security can be taxed. So when you have someone that's nearing age 62 and you're sitting down or talking with them about that horizon and when they should file, what are some of the things that you discuss with them that are factors in deciding that?
Well, there's a few things. Really, there's 12 factors that I've identified that any individual needs to at least consider when they're thinking about their own filing strategy and when they file. First of all, a lot of the people in my industry, finance, whether it's doing what I do or just writing content for these financial articles, they do tend to take this hardline approach that everyone should delay as long as possible. But then on the other hand, if you read the comments in my YouTube channel, which are very amusing, by the way,
So entertaining.
you should read some of those. But a lot of those individuals take the approach that you should file as early as possible. And they take this approach for a number of reasons. Some of it is distrust of the government. Some is you may die, which is one that I hear quite often. And the truth is, really, some of those are right, but they're not right for everyone.
Yeah.
So, if we back up and we look, let's take an individual whose full retirement age is 67, for example. You could file as early as age 62, or you could file as late as age 70. Well, technically, you could file at any point, but there's no reason to delay past age 70. So, if your full retirement age is, let's just say 67, and you file at 62, you're only going to receive 70% of the benefit that you would have received if you would have waited till age 67.
Wow.
If you delay that until 70, you'll receive 124%
Okay.
the benefit that you would have received at age 67. So it's increased. And that's the big discussion and argument is, should you delay? Should you file early? Yeah, if you file early, you're going to get probably more checks in your lifetime, but they're going to be smaller checks. If you wait, you're going to get less checks, but they're going to be larger checks. And so, unfortunately, a lot of times individuals boil it down to this old break-even analysis, which I think is a horrible idea on its own. With the break-even being, okay, I need to figure out how long I'm going to live. And then, if I'm looking at filing at age 62 versus 67, I know I've got to live to at least 76 for those cumulative payments to catch up. So if I can live past 76, I'm good. But if I die before that, I would have been better off to file at 62.
Yes.
That's the rationale used. In fact, the Social Security Administration for years had a break-even analysis on their website.
Wow.
And thankfully, they've taken that down. And now instead, they just say, hey, we don't give any advice about this sort of thing anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably some danger in doing that, I can see.
Yeah, absolutely. So I tend to turn the advice back on its head a little bit when people say, Devin, listen, I'm going to file early. What if I die? So let's talk about some statistics real quick.
Okay.
According to the Social Security Administration, men's benefits, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but men's benefits are much higher than women's benefits. And that's because the average earnings of men are higher than women through their, for a variety of reasons, through their careers. Which then, when you take the statistic that men have a shorter life expectancy, here's the way this breaks down then. You have a man and a woman. The man has the higher benefit. The man is probably going to die before his wife.
Mm-hmm.
When he does that, his benefit is most likely to become her benefit.
Okay.
So if he files at the earliest age possible, because what if I die? Well, now he has seriously hurt, potentially, his spouse's survivor benefits.
Okay.
So that's certainly one of the things that we have to consider when we're trying to figure out when we're going to file. What's the relative importance of that income should the higher earner die? If it's fairly high, then we need to preserve as much survivor benefit as we can for the spouse. I've seen more than one spouse just about impoverished when the higher earning spouse died, and they lost a large chunk of those Social Security benefits.
I see. Okay. Wow. So much goes into it. It's just a lot to figure out and so many things to think about, whether you're single, whether you're married, what your life expectancy is. And we hear all the time, people is like, oh, I took those benefits at 62. I could die tomorrow. I'm not taking any chances.
Absolutely.
But then I read something about like the highest Social Security check you could possibly get if you'd had the highest amount of earnings over 35 years was under $3,000, and then the average check being around $1,400. And I'm really surprised at how many people we see coming into Medicare who literally have absolutely no savings. They're depending on that Social Security check, and then they're just devastated to see that it's barely enough to cover rent and groceries, let alone, what they're going to need to live for
Yeah.
20, 30 years now with the medical technology that we have.
Yeah. Yeah, it is sad. Social Security was always designed as a safety net. It
Yeah.
was never designed as the primary retirement plan.
Mm.
They even put that message on the Social Security statements now.
Oh, they do.
So,
That's good.
yeah, it's there, but I don't know how many people are reading those.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hear people too. I heard the thing when we're talking to them about how much Medicare costs, and so the common misconception that we run across all the time is, I worked all these years and I saw these FICA taxes, and that goes to pay my Social Security and my Medicare. What do you mean Medicare costs money? And
Yeah.
then they find out that Social Security check isn't even going to be as big as what they're actually getting, because they've got to pay their Medicare Part B and D premiums, and it can just be really
Yeah.
overwhelming. So sometimes I feel like I'm shouting from the mountaintops, learn this stuff when you're age 50. You should have to go to a class and find out that it's not going to be free, and you're going to need
Yeah.
supplemental coverage, and there needs to be more so that you don't end up in this situation where you're scraping pennies together and robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah. And I think because it seems simple, when you get that simple statement that shows what you're going to receive,
Mm-hmm.
People tend not to dive in
Yeah.
and try to figure this out beforehand. For example, I've seen more than one person file at the earliest age they could at 62
Mm-hmm.
because their statement said they could file as early as 62. What they didn't think about was that if you're still working and your earnings exceed a certain amount,
Yeah.
they're going to start to withhold benefits. And where it really gets messy is, let's say that you're not working at 62, you file for benefits, then you get hired you go to work for someone, your earnings exceed that limit, and the Social Security Administration doesn't know for a little while.
Yeah.
And then they find out, and then they send you this nasty overpayment notice, which are almost impossible to unravel.
Okay.
When you get one of those, it's just horrible. So if you're planning to work and you're under full retirement age, you need to make sure your earnings are not going to exceed the income limitation, which this year is in the $17,000 range.
Okay.
And that does increase on an annual basis. But you need to absolutely understand that if you do exceed that, they're going to withhold your benefits.
Yeah. So if you do find yourself filing for Social Security and setting up your Medicare benefits and realizing that this check is not going to stretch as far as you need it to, and you want to pick up some side hustle, driving for Uber or pet sitting or something like that, you can't just do that unlimited, because that could be Social Security coming back on that in 5 years with the chunk of change that you owe would be even more devastating.
Right.
So that has to be carefully considered, and it's not the same for everyone. I think I saw that changes. Certain states tax differently, and so it's really important for people to do their research, and I know that they can do some of that with you. So talk to us about how people can find you online, and what you would recommend for somebody, let's say, that is 55 or 60, coming up on this time in retirement. What are some of the steps that they can take and how they could educate themselves?
So a couple of things. Let me give you the first and what I think is the most important step. Just yesterday, I heard from a lady that said, "Hey, Devin, in 1978, 79, 80, and 81, my earnings record shows a 0. That's not right. How can I get that fixed?"
Wow.
That's a long time ago. One of the most important things that you need to do every year, you're filing your taxes every year. There's other steps that you're doing every year. Check your earnings record to make sure that your earnings have been added appropriately.
Yeah.
You could work at the same employer for 20, 30 years, and right in the middle of that employment, you'll often find missing earnings.
Wow.
And that may be because a Social Security number was transposed or a number of other things, but you've got to get that fixed pretty quick, because the IRS is only keeping your tax returns for 7 years. Most individuals are only keeping them for 7 years or less.
Yeah.
And W-2s, if the business has already gone out of, if you work for someone that the business is closed now, it's very difficult to go back and substantiate income once you've let several years pass.
Mm-hmm.
And it can make a big difference in your benefits formula too, because that formula is based on 35 years. Whether you have 35 years or not, they will use 35 years. So if you have 30 years of earnings, they're going to have 5 years of zeros.
Okay. That's a really important point.
It is, and those zeros bring an average down substantially.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure to get in there and figure out what your earning statement looks like every year. It's usually updated for the prior year by mid next year. So,
Okay.
by mid 2019, we should be able to see your 2018 earnings, at least by then. Some of them are already updated, but
Mm-hmm.
that's probably the most important step you could take. And then the YouTube channel that we have, you can find a wealth of information there on the earnings limit and on Social Security taxation, which, by the way, Danielle, two completely separate issues.
Yes.
The way your benefits are taxed as income, added to your income tax, and then the way that they'll withhold benefits if you make too much. Two separate issues, then people
Okay.
need to understand how those work. And then you can also find me online at socialsecurityintelligence.com, which is a website that we started just to talk about Social Security. Fun stuff.
Yeah. Really exciting reading, but so important because it's a
Absolutely.
place that you can go, and it's an excellent website. I've visited it myself several times. And so you can kind of pick and choose the pieces that you need, but a lot of different topics covered there. And another thing that also folks that Devin offers is a podcast. So tell us a little bit about that, because I really enjoyed listening to your podcast. I'm sort of a podcast junkie. I have all my marketing podcasts, and then I have my money nerd podcast, which includes you. And then
Yeah.
on my way home from work, I've got the true crime ones for fun. So talk to us about the Big Picture Retirement Show.
Yeah, so Big Picture Retirement Podcast. We've been recording these for a couple of years now, but it's myself and a co-host on this, John Ross. And John is an elder law attorney, former accountant, now elder law attorney. And the perspective that the two of us bring, from a financial planner to the accounting side to the legal side, we kind of bring all of that in and talk about that big picture of retirement. So we certainly get into a lot more in the podcast than just Social Security there too. I reserve some of the other channels to talk about Social Security, but there we talk about how to take that big view of retirement, make sure that you're covering all of the areas that you should.
Yeah, and I like that the perspective that he's able to bring in, because from the whole estate planning, elder law type side, the things that you also might think about as people get older and they might need long-term care, or there's a whole other
Right.
aspect of things that retirement touches on, and he's kind of able to bring that conversation in, where
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of times, I'm with Medicare stuff, I'm just telling people the bad news, which is you're going to pay for your own long-term care. Well, then, having him on your show, there's ideas that he can bring about what people can do when they're facing that situation, and so many other things that just gives a different perspective to the whole Social Security retirement angle.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Without a doubt. It is an interesting partnership for sure. And we've had a blast recording the podcast.
Yeah.
We release an episode every other Monday, and you can find that on iTunes, Google Play, or anywhere else you like to listen to your podcast.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. And folks,
Yeah.
I really recommend checking out all of Devin's information as we have hot Social Security questions upon us. Hopefully, Devin, I can call on you again to enlighten us every now and then here on our YouTube channel.
Please do.
So there you have it, folks. Some easy, great info from Devin, who is truly the most knowledgeable person that I know when it comes to Social Security. I encourage you to check out his channel here on YouTube and subscribe so that you can get notifications whenever he posts a new video. Hope you enjoyed this episode. There will be more like this to come. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.